There's an Elvis movie on the marquee sign. We've all seen at least 3 times. Everybody's broke, Bobby's got a buck. Put $1 worth of gas in his pickup truck. We're going 90 miles an hour down a dead-end road. What's the hurry, son? Where you gonna go? We're gonna howl at the moon, shoot at the light. It's a small town Saturday night. It's a small town Saturday night. Well, Lucy's got her lipstick on a little too bright. Bobby's getting drunk and looking for a fight. Liquor on his breath and trouble on his mind. And Lucy's just a kid along for the ride. I got a 6-pack of beer and a bottle of wine. Gotta be bad just to have a good time. They're gonna howl at the moon, shoot out the light. It's a small town Saturday night. It's a small town Saturday night. It's my favorite verse. Bobby told Lucy the world ain't round. Drops off sharp at the edge of town. Lucy, you know the world must be flat, 'cause people leave town, they never come back. They go 90 miles an hour to the city limit sign, put the pedal to the metal till they change their mind. Howl at the moon, shoot out the light. It's a small town Saturday night. Howl at the moon, shoot out the lights. It's a small town Saturday night. It's a small town Saturday night. Welcome to String Theory, and I did that song for my old friend Hal Ketchum, and I had to do it. Might have lost a little bit of monetization because of that on this. I don't care. Hal amazingly passed away last Monday night while I was uploading Life and Music that spoke about him quite a bit. And I just found out on Tuesday, yesterday, that he'd gone. And he was one of my favorite songwriters and one of my favorite singers. And I'll never do him justice, but that's one of my favorite Hal songs. And so welcome to String Theory, the live weekly show here on YouTube, the JP Cormier channel, where you ask the questions and we try to give all the answers concerning all things stringed. And we're very glad to be with you here right now, especially these days when we're in the middle of another lockdown here in the Halifax area. And but they can't lock us down inside here. We're safe. Want to thank our partners, G&G Music and Annie Ganesh, Glenn Gotel. Thank you so much, Glenn. Always being here for God knows, I don't even know how many weeks this is. It's a lot of weeks, 30 or 40 or something. And our other partners, Levy Straps, thank you so much for sponsoring us and getting our String Theory straps and our G&G straps to us, and the best straps in the business, as far as I'm concerned. They always have been. It's all I've ever used. Yamaha guitars, Boucher guitars, everybody at Robin's shop, Julian, Guillaume, thank you so much. Chris Meikle and the whole crew at St. Louis Music, and Alvarez Yairi. And some new guys that are about to come in. James Martin Guitars from Ireland, they're going to send us some stuff to look at. And another European company that I've been speaking to just today called Davina, which makes a mid-range price guitar that's just a knockout. Recording King, Gallagher, the list goes on of these great people that are helping us bring content to the channel, and it's so much fun. So yeah, this is where we are on Wednesday nights, and let's see now. I gotta find something here that I can't find. There we go. This contains the cure for COVID. Good thing I don't have it. Anyhow, we are experiencing some hiccups on the channel. As you might have heard, if you're watching closely, we've had to postpone the Montgomery Street show Sunday night because they can't make it here because of an not related to COVID, but there's a health issue in the band. They need to postpone for a little bit, so we're going to get them on. Don't worry about it. They are coming. Just be a little later than normal. We're still planning on having Tom Swift here next Sunday night, Sunday after this one. So, yeah, everything's going well. Doing lots of reviews. Playing a guitar there just now that I'm about to review next week, I suppose, pretty soon. Got a few more things here to show you over if you're watching the guitar stuff with John. Yeah, so awesome. String theory. Here we go. Where's the first Kirsten?
First one comes from the Happy Knot.
Happy Cannot, which is not Cannot. It's not. I know it. I just imagine it is.
But it's spelled N-O-T.
Because it's funny. Funnier if it was Cannot. K-N-O-T.
Mandolin A style versus F style. Is there a difference? Is an F style out of place for Celtic music? Also, do you think Boucher will ever enter the mandolin making field?
I've answered this exact question before.
It's very possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely the second half.
Yeah, I've answered that. I've just had a wicked deja vu because I've answered that exact question. F and A style mandolins are very different depending on the maker. A style mandolins are usually much quieter and have less kind of wood in them, like wood tone. They're a thinner sounding instrument. F styles are for bluegrass. They're deeper, have more wood. And F styles are not out of place in Celtic music. You can play either style in any music you want. And no, Boucher will never build a mandolin. No, it's not. It's a different beast altogether. And guitar luthiers that specialize in guitar don't want to build mandolins. You either have to build mandolins or guitars. You can't do both. There's very few cases in the world where you can actually find a guitar builder that does build mandolins, and one of them is Collings, but they have a specialist in that shop that used to work for Gibson, Flatiron. Like, there's a whole bunch of companies that these guys have worked for in the past. So, yeah, it's very. And I should mention Eastman because I play Eastman. That's the only mandolins I use. They also build guitars, but they specialize in arch top guitars, which is a carved top, and that's why mandolin building is so difficult. All of the parts, back, top, and sides, all have to be carved by hand. It's not something you can put in a CNC machine or use a pattern or whatever. They're all carved by hand. So it's a very different, completely different process than guitar. So there you go. Second time. That was weird, but I answered you anyway.
Up next is Caper Away.
Caper Away.
Is there still a plan to incorporate Master Music Method into the YouTube subscription?
Yeah, you're talking about the private membership. Yes, there is actually. We just haven't finished doing it yet.
Our internet's very slow.
What?
Our internet's too slow.
Yeah, that's generally what's happening. I don't think we'll actually be able to get it done until we get our fiber op back here, because it's
another house to do it.
Yeah, because it's just incredibly. It's a huge amount of data, and we just don't have the speed here to put it up. So we are working on it though. So fear not. Next,
let's see here. I lost it. Come here. Taylor 40th.
Taylor.
Can you comment about relative pitch and solfege? Is that a thing? Am I saying that right? Do you know what that is?
Well, how's it spelled?
SOLFEG.
I don't know.
And their importance for players without perfect pitch. What can we do to have a reliable method to improve our ability to play what we hear?
Boy.
I'm not sure what solfege is.
That's a really deep question. Uh, I I'm of the mind that I have been able to teach people perfect pitch. I don't think there's such a thing as not being able to hear pitch. I just don't.
I
Although
don't know. Some people are
there are
pretty bad at it.
there are people who are tone deaf, and I'm not sure about that. It's possible, yes, that some people's brains can't identify uh, the because you're talking about the brain um, identifying the wavelength of a sound of a single note, right? Which the higher it is, the closer the things are together, how closer the waves are together, and your brain analyzes that and figures out what it's hearing. So, is it possible that some people's brains just aren't wired to do that? Yeah, it could be quite possible, but I really don't think it's. I think that practicing music and uh, paying close. See, people don't pay attention. That's the biggest problem with learning to play is that people don't pay attention. They're not they're trying to learn how to play the chords for Hotel California, but they're not learning why the chords are there in the first place and how they relate to each other and how every note in the chord relates to the other notes in the chord and why. Like all these whys are never asked. So people just go on being tone deaf or unaware that there is a relationship between every single note. There's a relationship between every note. There's a way to tie them together. And I think that the way that I teach on Master Music Method actually kind of by practicing what I'm showing people, your ear is forced to hear it, right? And that's important that you stop long enough to take things apart at a nearly microscopic level. Because if you don't do that, you'll never understand pitch or scales or relative pitches, the relationship between notes, chords, modes, these things, right? You can't just explain it to somebody verbally. It's not how it works. You have to do it. It's something that has to be done in practice. And I think if you work at it the right way, long enough, that your ear can be trained to hear what's going on. And we have a lot of things going for us now that we never had before, and that is electronic tuners. You can tune your guitar now for certain and know it's tuned for the most part. The instruments still have to be tempered when they're tuned, which means they have to be tuned within themselves. And that exercise is part of teaching pitch and hearing whether something is alike or different. And that's a big thing, right? It's these little tiny stupid things, right, that can unlock the door for people that go, whoa, oh, wait, wow, wait, I get it. I hear that. I see why that's different or why it's the same. And you start in the middle in that process of what is the same? Is this note exactly the same as this one? Is it the same as this one 8 notes away? So 2 A's or 2 B's or 2 C's or whatever. Is that 1 octave in between these, or is it 2 octaves, and so on, right? That trains your ear. What the hell was that?
That was my phone.
That trains your ear to hear things, and people I think people give up too soon on being able to hear, and identify music. So anyhow, I hope that helps. It's a very long answer, but it's a very deep question because it's not something that I can just. There's nobody that's going to look at you and go, "Do these 3 things and you'll have perfect pitch," because that's bullshit. That's not possible unless you actually have it to start with. So you have to do a whole bunch of things inside your world with your instrument, inside your environment that create a space for your brain to start to register what a G sounds like, what an A sounds like. On and on that goes, right? Everybody drink. Who's next?
Just a comment. Michael Easter thinks that solfege is the do re mi fa so system.
Right. Well, that's what I use. Major scales is the best, or the major scales is the only way to start, because that's the main relationship between notes is the major scale. So that's the easiest way to teach yourself how to hear tone. Who's next?
Mark T.
Mark T.
Have you ever tried or played an octave mandolin? And if so, do you have a preference of brands?
Are you reading questions from last week's show or something?
No.
I've answered that question too, like almost verbatim.
Oh, people are curious. They missed it.
This is getting really weird.
I guess it's an important question. A popular question.
Yeah, I've played octave mandolins. What was the rest of the question?
Do you have a preference of brands?
I don't know. I don't. Because I don't know enough about octave mandolins to even know who builds them. Like, I mean, obviously Gibson does, and it might be up for discussion what an octave mandolin really even is. Whether it's it's a long, like a bouzouki type instrument, or is it a mandola, or is it like Tim O'Brien plays an octave, basically an octave mandolin. It's a small body guitar with a long mandolin neck on it, strung and played an octave lower. I love them. I mean, I love bouzouki's, and that's basically what a bouzouki is an octave mandolin. It's a mandolin that's one octave tuned an octave lower than a mandolin. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have enough to do with them to make an informed judgment on anything like that. But yeah, they are awesome. I've come across them quite a few times in my life. Hope that helps. Who's next, right?
Bruce Fiander.
Bruce Fiander.
Sure, Fiander. You know him?
Yeah, I think I do.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alrighty. He says, trying to commit to memory the music notes up to the 12th fret, trying to gain freedom of playing riffs and phrases on the fly. Any tips or comments?
You have to learn the circle of fifths. Again, it sounds like people need to sign up for the school. Master Music Method teaches all this. It's $15 a month, and you have access to dozens of lectures, an entire directory of guitar. And the first thing I teach people in the guitar directory is a circle of fifths, which will teach you every single note on the fretboard that's possible to play. That you can, if you could touch it with your left hand, I can teach you what note it is with a very simple system. And that's what you have to do to learn. And if you're smart about it, you take that information and take out some of the useless information. Well, it's not useless. I don't mean that. I mean, it's information that you don't need right away. Like, you can find every note, but you should pick out, F, G, A, B, C, and E, right? And D. And pick out the major scale notes and find them everywhere on the neck and take note of where those positions are. But the circle of fifths will show you what every single note is on the fretboard, no matter where you are. If you know you're sitting on an E, you'll know what every note is in either direction from that fret, just like that. So that's a Master Music Method thing if you want to try it or to look it up. But you got to find somebody who's going to explain it to you properly, because a lot of people just go, blah, there's the circle of fifths, figure it out. It's not very easy to do if you don't have, a little bit of guidance. So, but that's how it's done. The circle of fifths will show you everything you need to know. Who's next?
We got Laurie Dunfield.
That's a new name.
I think so. What do you think of sound hole pickups?
I personally hate them, but I hate them because they have a tone that doesn't fit my style. My style of music, in general is acoustic. The way a guitar hits a microphone and picks up the entire body of the guitar. A sound hole pickup is just a magnetic device that's picking up the strings vibrating directly over it in the sound hole like an electric guitar. And because it's that, it's just a piece of magnet. There's just magnets in there picking up the sounds and creating the vibration and electrical signal. It causes the unwound strings to sound electric. There's a honk on the B string that's really unpleasant to me because it sounds like an old archtop electric guitar, and I hate that. It's just something I can't live with it. I've tried a lot of different high-end sound hole guitars like the LR Baggs M1 and the Fishman Rare Earth and like all these, and they're good. They're not bad pickups, but the tone, the overall tone really bugs me. I can't handle it. So, of all the ones that I've ever tried, it's a toss-up between the Fishman Rare Earth with the onboard microphone. That took a bit of the crap out of that magnetic pickup, and it's a toss-up between that one and the LR Baggs. I think there's a sort of a dual source one of those too. I don't know if it's the M1 or something like that. It's those two are generally the best that I've ever heard. But with that being said, I could never take one on stage. I would lose my mind in the first song. So you're much better off and will spend much less money putting a K&K pickup in any guitar. It has the same premise. It has no battery. You can't see it. You don't have to put holes in your guitar or scrape up your sound hole and all of this stuff. It goes in there, boom, it's on the bridge plate, it comes out the end in an end pin jack, and you don't have to ever worry about it again. And it sounds just like your guitar. Just like your guitar. I got one right here. I never had one. I always have one very close by. The Pure pickup. It used to be called the Pure Mini. But this is the system that I use. And that's all there is to it right there. Isn't that something? It's just one line. Comes out the three little sensors. There's a jig that you put them on inside on the bridge plate with crazy glue. They don't come off. They'll never move. They'll be fine. Out to the end pin at the end of your guitar, your strap button. Boom. That's it. You don't have to do anything else ever in your life to that guitar to plug it in and have it sound incredible. So I've been using them for, well, nearly 20 years. So best thing I've ever had. So there you go. There's a shameless commercial for my buddies in Oregon. Dieter and the crew. Go ahead.
Next, Ian Rossiter.
Ian Rossiter. Rossiter by.
I don't think he's Irish.
Well,
or whatever that was.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. It was part Newfoundland, part Irish, part Drunkenese.
He says, so, I usually use an 1149 set on electric, but the arthritis is killing me this year, using a .0095 .44 set lately. Have you ever had to adapt anything in your playing for such nuances?
I've always used just 10s on electric because I find that 9s are too thin. And I absolutely have had to change string gauges throughout the years. I started using light gauge strings on guitars. 12 to 53 is my preferred gauge now on acoustic. I used to use 13 to 56 medium gauge, and I found, well, I've answered this question before too. The reason I switched to lights basically was because I saw Tommy Emmanuel playing light gauge strings, and I always thought he was playing mediums because of all the tone he was getting, and then he divulged somewhere that he used not good strings either. He used Martin SP light gauge, which are to me are just garbage. I wouldn't. They won't last with me at all. I put them on my guitar, they're dead in 5 minutes. So I switched over to the light gauge phosphor bronze elixirs 12 to 53, and it took me all of about 10 minutes to just change my attack enough that you couldn't even tell I was playing lights. They sounded like mediums. and my guitars sound better, my hands move faster, everything is easier. Everything is easier just from that one simple switch. And if you're mindful of what you're doing when you're playing, you got to be mindful. You just can't bash an instrument and hope that for the best. You got to be mindful about your attack and how you hit rhythm and how you hit, if you want to hit big notes, how you hit them. You should do that anyway, regardless of what you're doing. You should be very mindful of the right hand, of what it's doing and how you're releasing notes with your left and all these things that create that perfect delivery, right, that you want. And if you have the right gauge strings on your guitar that aren't hurting your hand, there's not much you can't do, right? I can still play mediums if I had to, but I don't like it as much anymore as I did. I find mediums to be now very slow. They slow me down somehow, and there's a lot more meat on them. But that doesn't mean much if you're not happy with your delivery. So all of the guitars, all of these major brand guitars, like these Yairis that just came in, and of course all of my Bouchers, like. Part of it is that Robin knows I use lights, but all of their Studio Goose guitars are all strung with light gauge. And if you pick up their bluegrass guitar with mediums on it, you can't tell the difference between the two, except the mediums are harder to play. That's all, slightly, because it's a Boucher, so they play like a dream. But the mediums are just slightly harder on your hand. These light gauge, like this guitar here, this is the first Boucher that I ever bought, and it's my Bubinga. I call her the Ivory Girl. And I believe this has a set of just regular 80-20 elixirs on it. But this guitar doesn't sound like it has lights. They almost sound mediums. They get a ton of power, right? Part of it is my attack. Like I've changed very slightly how I approach the right hand and the left hand on the guitar. But it made my playing better. Because you can't beat the shit out of light strings. You can, but they don't sound good. So you have to use more finesse, and that makes you think more about what your hands are doing. And so Robin, he strings most of his high-end guitars that are going up to guys like me. They're all light gauge, unless you're buying a bluegrass instrument. If you're buying a bluegrass goose, it's coming with phosphor bronze mediums. But again, right? Even the maestro himself, Robin, right? He plays lights. He does all that fingerstyle stuff and Beatle stuff, and he's a tremendous guitar player. Robin uses light gauge strings, right? So. Anyhow, I'm not even sure where that question started, but it certainly went off on a tangent.
Adapting for arthritis is where that started.
Right. Well, there you go. That's a good reason to switch.
Up next is Derek Mosier. Good?
Yes, it is. Derek Mosier?
Yes.
How you doing, Derek?
He says, you like this one. I got a Flambeau 12-string from the 80s, designed by George Loudon and built by S. Yairi.
Yes. Have
you heard of them?
Yes. I just did a major review and history of Yairi guitars, and I covered that all. If you go on my channel, it's called what's it called? The Amazing History of Yairi Guitars.
History or Story of Yairi?
Yeah, and I review I actually have it here. It's just not out right now.
That one?
That is odd. I wonder where that went. It's in here somewhere. Anyhow, I did the review and reviewed the DYM 60 HD, which is the Dreadnought Honduran mahogany. This 50-year-old mahogany that they didn't even know they had, that Yairi-san had bought in 1970 and never told anybody he had it. It was outside aging for 50 years. And yeah, so where was I going with that? Oh yeah, the flambeau, and yes. So that I covered all that in the review from 1980 to 1985. George Loudon and Saduo Yairi and Kazuo Yairi were all in cahoots because Loudon was getting started and he had a couple things going on. He was getting them to help and they were helping. They worked together for 5 years before Loudon finally. I think I'm not sure of the exact history of Loudon. I know Loudon is a friggin' tremendous guitar, but at that point, some point in time, they just went, okay, no more help. We're just doing it ourselves. And then Loudon was kind of born out of that whole process. But yes, I'm very familiar with them. Never played a flambeau, but I know all about them. I've seen them. Did he say it was a 12-string?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I imagine it's probably killer. I don't know if it came. I'm not exactly sure how Yairi was facilitating the construction of these guitars, whether they were doing it through the same factory process that they were supplying St. Louis Music with Alvarez guitars, which was beautiful, right? Because St. Louis Music is kind of brought them to the West in 1965, and they always allowed Sadeo and Kazuo, especially the nephew who just passed away in 2014, who actually designed this guitar with Chris Meikle. The one I was playing, that guitar is built out of that 50-year-old mahogany. There's going to be a major review on this in the next week or so. So St. Louis Music always allowed Yairi to be Yairi, be a luthier shop, as well as supply these Alvarez factory instruments to the United States. So yeah, that whole story is incredible. What happened and how long they've been doing it, and Saduo and Hiroshi, his son, started building guitars in 1946. It's crazy how long it went, and it got all passed down to his nephew, Saduo, which is Kazuo, who was his daughter now runs the shop, and we lost Kazuo in 2014, and tremendous guitar builder. I'm playing these guitars that he designed and built. Started working with Chris Meikle, the senior vice president of St. Louis Music in 2010, and designed all these new guitars to kind of freak people out in the West, because Yairis were not known for that big Western sound that we're used to hearing in here. They were more pristine and they were Japanese. They're for a Japanese market. So the story is incredible. Go watch the video. That's what it's called, The Amazing Story of Yairi. And the review of the guitar, it'll blow your mind. I've already had people call me and say it's like one of the best sounding acoustics I've had in here. So, and it is. It's one of the very best guitars I've had in this room. It's right up in there with all these other makers, because it's coming out of it's coming off of basically a one-man bench, right? And when you do that, that's what happens. You get great guitars. So anyhow, yeah. Who's next?
Jeff Gallant sent a super chat.
Jeff Gallant.
He says he can't buy your drink at the trailside tonight, so he's buying us a virtual drink.
Cool.
$50.
Is it this one?
That one right there.
Ginger, go get me a beer. Thanks, Jeff. We'll see you there some point in time. I think, fingers crossed, it appears that we may do these gigs 21, 22, 23 of December. That's what it looks like right now. But I don't know for sure. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about getting us a provincial exemption so that we can go into PEI and do the shows and come right back and stay sequestered in the hotel and all that stuff. So anyhow, that's where that is right now. So stay tuned. Who's next?
Lyle Goldberg.
Mm-hmm. Lyle, I remember Lyle, a name I know.
I noticed that the fingers of your left hand are hardly raised off the fretboard when playing lead. Was it something you actively practiced, or did it come naturally to you?
It came naturally to me, but it only came naturally because I watched Chet Atkins until my face fell off. And I studied pictures of Chet, which is basically all I had at the beginning. Literally, just studied photographs and saw that his hand was always like this, even though it appeared to be moving, but he still hadn't raised his hand off the neck. And the things that I was doing were so complicated when I was young that there was no way to take your fingers away. You couldn't do it. You were moving all the time. So my hand just automatically stayed there in that position all the time. And it's been like that ever since. And if you watch any of the great guitar players that I watched, you know, Chet, Doc, Tony, these people don't move their hands away from the strings, and you never should. Your fingers should be literally hovering over the fretboard 100% of the time, period. End of story. If you do this or do that or do this and get all this, you're just wasting energy. It's all kinetic energy, right? So the muscles you want to flex are just like that. You don't want to have to do this. That takes a lot more time to do this as opposed to doing this, right? The difference is immense. Making a fist from a half an inch away as opposed to making a fist from your open hand. So that's the premise. It's almost like a martial art, like Bruce Lee. That's what how he would have described it, right? Like, and it's the truth. You just got to keep your fingers relaxed. Your hand has to be curled all the time. You never see any of these guys work any other way except that. The hand is relaxed. The fingers are in front of the neck all the time. The thumb is in the back where it needs to be. Sometimes over the top, sometimes in the middle of the neck. Wherever you're playing, it changes. And the hand is just like that. And it's just a natural position. You wouldn't walk around like this, right? That would not be natural. Your hand automatically wants to just curl up. So that's how you approach the guitar. And it keeps your fingers millimeters from the strings all the time. So no matter what you're doing, you're not expending all this energy to finger a note. You're just moving your fingers a little bit to get what you need, right? And it also creates a lot of strength. So if you need to do pull-offs and hammer-ons and stuff, you're not expending all this kinetic energy, you know, getting your finger into position to make a move like a hammer-on or a pull-off or a triplet or a trill. The fingers are already sitting there, so it makes that a lot easier and creates a lot of hand strength this way. Like get this movement get stronger the more that you play, right? So what you don't want to do again is like use the muscles that bring the fingers from straight to bent. You're just using these ones, right? Just like you're grinding a sugar cube in your hand. That's the feeling it is, right?
Is it something you do often?
What?
Grind sugar cubes in your hand?
Well, I've done everything from hold eggs while I was playing the banjo to friggin', yeah, I've done just about everything. And that's why I don't recommend people squeezing tennis balls and shit like that. That I've never thought that was a good idea because a tennis ball is too big. It's creating this shape, right? And that's the wrong muscle group. That's not how you play the guitar. Your hand is already closed. It should be closed when you're playing, right? That's the muscle group you want. So if you're squeezing a tennis ball, it builds strength in the whole hand, but you'll find your fingers get really slow because they're stuck out there, right? You want them in like that. So there's your Zen left hand lesson for the week.
Yep.
I'm full of shit. Actually, I'm not. Okay, go ahead.
We got Dan Gatton, or Gatton, depending on where he's from.
Dan Gatton? Yeah.
Besides blues, do you like to play any jazz or classical, etc.?
Oh,
I would
God.
love to see you do flamenco.
You'll never see me do flamenco. Flamenco I love playing all the other stuff, and I do. But flamenco is a whole other world. A whole other world. Flamenco is like a. I'll tell you a guy, Bill Bourne, tremendous musician from out west, has studied with flamenco masters. And he came. We were sitting around one day. He's really good at it. He's incorporated it into steel guitar. He does it on his Gibson from time to time. And he started to describe to me, like the different parts of flamenco technique. And there's tons of them, and they all have a name in Spanish. And they're all tied to mythology and folklore, and there's certain things you do in flamenco that are named after famous players that lived in the 1500s, and insanity. It's like a martial art. You have to go through degrees with these masters to be recognized as someone who can actually play it. I just don't have time for that shit. I got enough on my plate now, and I want to do things. If I'm going to do something like that, I want to do it right, and I can't. There's just no that has to stay over there, because I can't. I would never be able to do it justice, and I'd want to if I was going to play that kind of, because it is friggin' complex. You look at players like Jesse Cook, right? Who's a flamenco god. Oscar Lopez. Oscar Lopez is one of the greatest guitar players in the world. And he knows all that stuff. He's from Chile. And he knows all about that. He knows all about that technique and how it works. And even though he plays with flat picks, he plays with fingers and his thumb, he's got all this technique and all this history, and it's ingrained in him, right? So I just couldn't. I just can't. I couldn't do it. Not and feel good about it. Some of those things to me are sacred, like those things that are, so complex and so steeped in history. I wouldn't want to do it wrong. So, especially, I'm not getting any younger, so it's not like I'm going to take up some other system of music and spend the last 40 years of my life when I'm 90. Oh, I finally learned how to play flamenco. That's no good. Okay, who's next?
Caper Away.
Caper Away.
He wants to know if your Christmas show at the Carlton is still going ahead.
We have no idea.
So far it is.
Yeah, but we still have no idea. We have no idea whether or not they're going to change the gathering numbers, or whether the lockdown is going to continue past the 14 days. So I can't give you an answer one way or the other. Right now, it is. But I wouldn't count on that. I'd just keep listening and watching and see what's happening in the HRM. And that will tell you. There's a possibility that it will. There's a possibility it won't. But it just depends on how well this initial 14-day lockdown, flattens the curve. So
it hasn't been canceled yet.
No, it has not.
Yeah.
Next.
All right. Darren Forbes.
I know Darren, back again
Has a
for
gear
more torture.
question.
Has a what?
A gear question.
Okay.
When you record, do you use outboard compression to control dynamics, or in the box in post-production? Do you just trying to control your playing dynamics during recording?
I never use compression during recording, ever. I know how to work a mic, so I play into microphones so that what I'm hearing has its own natural compression. So also, I don't ever mic an instrument where it sounds like shit. So that negates the need for compression. So depending on the instrument, the mic placement is everything. I should be able to play as dynamically as I want based upon where the mic is. If I'm cacking out the system and going into the red, means the mic's in the wrong place, or my technique's a bit shoddy. So I do all of that first. There's an old adage in the recording industry, and it goes shit in, shit out. That's the rule. If you put shit through the mic and onto the tape, that's what you're going to hear coming out of the speakers, right? So miking and positioning the instruments and even vocals and all those things, that's number one priority. Then when I'm going to mix things, I have a vast array of super high-end compression that I can use from all sorts of different sources. I've got Focusrite stuff, Renaissance, Waveshell. What else? There's so many of them. I've been collecting them forever. And I have all of them tuned to the outboard counterparts. So when I turn on, let's say, I turn on one of my Renaissance compressors, I have my settings saved that make it react like the outboard counterpart would react. And I pay close attention to my compression. I don't like compression. If you can hear compression on my recordings, I'm sorry, because I didn't want you to hear it, and I don't like to ever hear it. It's my compression. Generally, I use a mastering optical compression, as fat as I can get it, and I try to make peak reduction no more than 3 dB. That's it. If it pushes back more than that, you can hear it, and I hate that. So that's how I do it. Compression is a dangerous tool, because you can always get it where it's ugly, and the way to use compression is gently, so that and to make sure what you're putting through it already sounds good, right? That's the secret. If you just put stuff in and squash the shit out of it because it's not recorded properly, you're not using compression the right way. So you got to make sure that you're recording it properly, that the tone is good, your EQ's the way you want it before you compress it. You always put compression last. So, and that's how you do it. You just get everything sounding as good as you possibly can. Then you put that little bit of really nice warm compression on there, and it just makes it go. It just makes it go fat, right? And in your face, but not overpowering, and not where when it hits really hard, it drives everything else back 50 feet, right? You don't want that. So you could do and Dave Gunning, shit. That guy knows a bit more about mixing than anybody that I know. He could give you a master class on how to use compression. He uses both. He uses the plugins and all the electronic compressions that I use, and he has a couple of outboard compressors he uses. But he uses a mixture of both things. And we've done A/B mixes in our studios, and they're sort of sister studios. So we've experimented with both angles on that. And it's like I say, you could give a master class on what to do and not to do about compression. It's one of the, and don't even get me started about mastering compression, because that's a whole other ball game, right? When you're mastering a recording and you have to compress it for radio and CDs and whatnot, and to be turned into MP3s, it's another ball game. It's a whole other ball game. Getting that, and I have all kinds of toys here I use to do the same thing I'm talking about, single tracks, making sure compression's not heard, that it's just something that you put on there and it causes the entire recording to get richer and closer to the listener, but you never notice it backing off, right? And that is it's you could take a master class on how that's done. So it's just practice. If you practice it and know your gear, know how it reacts, know what your speakers really sound like. Don't guess and don't trust them. Do a mix, take it out in your car, see if it sounds good. Take it to a buddy's house and play it over his Bluetooth speaker. Take it to your computer and play it through the shitty computer speakers. All of these things, right? There's so many factors involved in any stage of recording. You got to be really careful. So anyhow, I hope that helped. That's a pretty in-depth answer, but there's a lot to it. So research. Keep looking, keep studying. Who's next?
I got a super chat from Danny Savard.
Danny Savard.
What is your biggest musical challenge right now? Too much whiskey?
Too much whiskey, yes. That would tend to be it. I don't have one. I don't have a musical challenge.
Getting your music out there right now. I mean,
that's not really a challenge. That's not really a challenge to me. I mean, I've never considered anything in music to be a challenge. It's either part of the learning experience or it's not. When you say challenge, you're possibly intimating that it's unpleasant, and it's nothing unpleasant about music. About learning it or marketing it or whatever. There's obstacles that you have to go through, but generally there's really no challenge to it, and I don't have a challenge. If anything, my continuing challenge over the years has been, and this is probably the only thing I could cite as something I would look at and go, damn, I wish that was easier, is making records and what to put out and what to record and when to write and how to gather, like all this. I have hundreds of sides sitting in my studio that I've recorded and trying to figure out, so what is the best time to put this type of record out or that type of record, or is it a song album? Is it a guitar album? Is it a fiddle album? That's been a constant thing my whole career. And, but at the end of the day, I just went ahead and did what I felt like doing and disregarded almost all of the advice that was given to me by people in the industry who said, well, you can't do that. Nobody wants to hear a guitar album. Nobody wants to hear a fiddle album, blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing you know, I put it out and sell 10,000 copies of it, right? So that's been the challenge. And if I translate that into current times, like the challenge is highly pleasant because, like, me and Gunning are talking about doing things together, and me and Gareth Pearson are talking about are planning a record, and Bill Elliott is soon going to be up and well and out of the hospital in the next year or so, and he's going to need to make another record, and it's just it's finding the place to put all these things in the queue, and that's the only challenge, right? That's the thing, is my cup has always been running over, and my whole life I never had a shortage. I've never been sitting around going, well, geez, I don't have any songs, or I don't have any ideas or whatever. I've never been like that. I've always had too much of it, and then I don't know what to do with it. But as I get older, that got easier too, because like I said, I started to make records for myself. And ultimately, that's all I've done for the past probably 15 years. I just make records for me. I get an idea and I go, I really think people would like this. I like it, so let's do it. And that's how records get made here. So even that part of it's become less of a challenge. But I guess, yeah, we're having problems sometimes planning what the next thing is, but we have some ideas. We're not working on it. So yeah. Anyhow,
a lot of work to schedule that we need to do.
yes. Who's next?
Terry Carter.
Terry? Terry Carter.
Is there a story behind writing Kelly's Mountain?
Yes, it's a simple story. I used to, and I suppose I still do, but I mostly do it on my phone now. So I used to like keep lyric ideas all over the place, and so I had files and boxes full of snippets and papers and
What do you do?
trying to find the answer to the question tonight.
I see. Multitasking.
Yeah. So anyhow, what am I doing here? There we go. Yeah. Okay. I thought that's what it was. Sorry. I used to keep all these snippets and stuff, and so occasionally I would go through this box and these files and see if there's anything in there worth finishing. And I was we were renting a house outside of Camp at the time, and I had a studio in this back bedroom, and it was a shithole house, and it was falling apart, and the basement had 4 feet of water in it, so the whole house was like starting to sag in the middle, and I was in this terrible bedroom in the back with orange shag carpeting, and I pulled out this file box I had kept for years, and I pulled out this thing that said songs, and there was all these different pieces of scrap paper and partially, all kinds of weird shit in there, and I saw this strange piece of cardboard sticking up out of the file, and I pulled it out. It was a greasy old pizza box lid with a big cheese stain in the middle of it, and written right through the grease stain was the lyric, "If I could only fly, if I could build a bridge." Boom. Instant song. That's how it got written. I wrote it right then. And I didn't even remember doing that. I just didn't even remember that. I suspect I did it in 1990 on the Tom Tour, the first Stompin' Tom Tour. I think that's where that piece of cardboard came from. But I'd forgotten about it for nearly 5 years, and pulled it out, wrote it. So we're going to get to our trivia question.
Oh, wait. Before you do that,
Yes?
Songwriter Circle. Songwriter Session.
Yes.
When is it?
I told you earlier. What was it?
No, I don't need to know. The people want to know.
Oh,
It's not for me.
the Song Circle is scheduled for the 8th of December. And we would have had it earlier, except the Gunning and Cormier tour kind of ate up all these dates that we normally would have, be able to do things. So, so we moved it a few times, and now it's on the 8th of December. So, December the 8th. If I don't die first. December the 8th. I'm so dry. December the 8th at 7 p.m. Song Circle. And I did have, I hope we can find it, but I kept all the lyrics from the last run we did there. So, yes. Anyhow, so the question is, tonight should be a no-brainer. I started the show. Okay, first of all, let's go to the prize packages. The G&G prize package tonight is the norm. You get your strap and your capo and your tuner, and he's doing $25 off any Recording King guitars and $200 off of any Boucher guitar. Now, mind you, he's only got 2 left there. There's 7 more coming in, and we're going to go do an in-store there before Christmas. If you're interested in buying a Boucher, I would do it pretty damn quick, because they're gone. Like they're 7 months behind right now because of the success that Glenn's had. Also, there's 3 or 4 of them at Fantasy Music in Halifax. If you're in the HRM and you can't get out, or you don't go out of and you want to do your shopping inside the city, they're there, and they're smoke. They're 4 of the nicest ones I've ever played, and so if you want one, there's the place to get it. So Fantasy, again, they do a $25 gift card off anything in the store. I believe they have a Christmas sale that I'll let you them tell you about when you go there. And if Terry Hume did what he's supposed to do, they're going to have some Red Label T-shirt for you too from Yamaha. Hopefully Terry was able to get some down there. So here's the question.
Oh wait, there's the draw too.
What?
The draw for the little amp thing from Fantasy. Remember?
Oh yeah, there you go. I forgot about that. Damn. So yes, Fantasy's got this little Yamaha desktop amp. It's super cool. And what we're gonna do is the people that win that prize pack this week, their names are going to go in a draw. And on the last Wednesday before Christmas, or whatever the last Wednesday is we do this, I don't know if we're going to do it right at the 23rd. We might not, but the last Wednesday we do this, we're going to pull a name out of the hat out of the winners between now and then, and that person's going to win that little desktop Yamaha amp.
Oh, Fantasy's going to do it, I think.
Yeah. So it's going to be really cool. Good catch on there. I almost forgot. All right, so okay. So the question is, I started the show with a Hal Ketchum song. God bless Hal. Poor Hal. Well, shouldn't say poor Hal. He had a great life, and he left a lot behind. That man was a very talented singer-songwriter and one of the best performers I ever seen live. Like, he was just incredible. And I got to work with him a couple different times, and he was a super nice man. That song I sang, I want to know the name of the record that came from. That was one of his biggest albums of all time. Came out May the 7th in 1991 on Curb Records in Nashville. What was the name of that big Nashville debut album of Hal Ketchum's? Dee 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 doo 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 boop dee 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 dee. No? Well, people are slow tonight.
Not yet.
Interesting. Not sure what I should do. I feel I'm amazed. Usually don't even get the question out of my face, and this answers flying in left and right.
Past the point of rescue?
Yes, sir. Who's that?
W.R. Mesher.
W.R. What is it?
Mesher. Mesher.
Okay, W.R. Mesher, you've won the G&G prize, which is the Strap Tuner $25 coupon off a Recording King or $200 coupon off a Boucher. W.R. Mesher, that's you. You've won G&G. And who's number 2 there?
Jeff Gallant.
Jeff Gallant. I don't think he's won yet, has he? No.
I don't think so.
Jeff, you've got the Fantasy package, which is the Yamaha Red Label T-shirt, $25 gift certificate at the store, and your name is going to go in the draw for the that little Yamaha desktop acoustic guitar amp, which is a super cool little thing. I saw it when we were down there doing the live broadcast. Was it last week? Yeah. So Jeff Gallant, you're our Fantasy Music winner. W.R. Mesher, you are G&G winners, and both of you right now send me an email at jpcormier38@gmail.com. jpcormier38@gmail.com. Send me an email right away, and I will forward your email off to these fine stores, and they're going to take care of you. That's
Glenn will mail to Labrador, will he?
Oh yes, Glenn. Either one of these shops will ship anywhere that you are. There's never a worry about that. So there it is. There's String Theory. for this date on November of 2020. Stupid, shitty caca COVID world. So, yeah. But we're all still here. Do yourselves a favor. Wear your masks. Wear your masks. Wash your hands. Stay away from the crowds. 6 feet. Stay safe. I don't care where you are or who you are. This shit will kill you. So be careful. Take care of each other. Stay safe. And we're going to see you very shortly, just about 1 week from now. Thank you for being here. Remember, guitar players, the most who has the guy who has the most when he dies wins. And I hope you never find your perfect guitar. It's too much fun looking.